Hi everyone, it's Nicole here for Simon Says Stamp, and I am sharing another stitching tree idea with you, but this time using components from the January 2018 card kit. I love the stitching tree project that I shared a few days ago so much that I wanted to share another idea with you, and this time create the stitching tree on pattern paper, use greetings from the January card kit, and also use some pom-poms instead of sequins. So here is a look at everything you get in the kit. Some glossy accents, the new Distress Oxide Custom Blend ink pad, mini pom-poms in a multicolor pack and white. We're going to be using the white ones. A bobbin of white thread, which we're also going to be using for our card today. Excuse me. It perfectly threads on the pom-poms on when you're using a needle and that thread. You can make a great little trim for a tree or a little garland, all kinds of things. A white jelly roll pin, which is always my favorite. I use it on everything. 3 black tags, a red envelope. The Simon Says Stamp envelopes are my absolute favorite. This Twirling Ice Skater wafer thin die, some 6x6 Echo Park Celebrate Winter pattern paper, beautiful pattern paper. We're going to be using the blue snowflake, of course, for the card today. The 6x8 Snow Much stamp set. This is a beautiful stamp set, which I have another card that I'll be sharing with you using many of the stamps from that. And then 3 sheets of cardstock from Simon Says Stamp in white, surf blue, and island blue. I'm starting by trimming down the pattern paper. This is again that Echo Park Celebrate Winter pattern paper from the kit to 5.5 by 4.25 inches. And then I'm going to take the Simon Says Stamp frame die. You guys have probably seen me use this because I use it all the time. It's my very favorite. It's this little thin frame. And we're going to cut a frame out of this. And we're also going to cut a frame from some Silver Sparkle cardstock. That's just going to give a little bit more of that wintry type feel and theme to this card. Yes, this is going to be a tree card. I'm kind of thinking an after Christmas type card when you maybe have need for a thank you, which I do. I think that these kind of cards are fantastic because it still has that holiday feel to it, but you can use it for a thank you card instead of maybe the Christmassy type card that you'll send before Christmas. Now from that middle panel, we're going to discard the little thin frame for now. From the middle panel, we're going to take the stitching tree die and die cut the stitching tree. And this is a fantastic die that die cuts the holes. No actual tree, but it's going to be some holes in a tree type or V or kind of upside down V shape. Now, what I love about this is there's lots of ways you can stitch the tree. Maybe you want to stitch the tree with the bobbin thread that you get here in the kit and thread the pom-poms on that way. Originally, I thought that that's what I was going to do, but I didn't feel that on the pattern paper. I think maybe if it was a solid cardstock, it would show up better, but I didn't feel on the pattern paper that you were getting that tree feel. And so I wanted to use a thicker type of thread to really give the tree the substance that it needs to really stand out on this pattern paper. And then I'm going to thread my pom-poms on that thread with a needle and just kind of create more of a garland effect throughout the tree. So we're going to start by stitching the tree first. And I am a big fan of crochet thread. I get mine at Hobby Lobby. I know a lot of you have asked for brands and stuff. I have no idea. I am not a knitter or anything like, or crocheter or anything like that. So I'm not exactly sure. And I don't have the packaging because all of my crochet thread I've had for several years. So I'm sorry about that, that I can't give you the exact width. It is not thick like yarn. It is more on the thin side. It goes through these holes perfectly. If you watched my other video, which I will link to at the end of this one, I go more in depth about the kind of stitch I'm doing here. My thread was way too long. I should not have cut such a long length of thread. If you are a hand stitcher of any kind, cross stitch or whatever, you probably know that the longer your thread is, the more tangled it tends to get when doing a stitching project. And I know better, and I still cut it way too long and it kept knotting up on me. So this took me a lot longer than I would have liked it to create my tree. But what I'm doing is a zigzag type of design that's meant to give you that tree shape and really fill it in without going back and forth. You could go exactly back and forth and have a very clean and modern type of tree. Those look amazing as well. What I like to do is start in one hole, go across to the other. I like to start at the bottom. That's just how I tend to do it. And then I go up to the next hole right above where we have just come down. And then I go back to that very first hole. It creates that zigzag type of effect, and I simply do that all the way up the tree. I don't worry about the little tippy top hole of the tree. For me, I really like to adorn the top of the tree with a star. This particular stitching design does not look great trying to stitch the top of the tree. In my other video, I showed that and it just doesn't work. If you are going to actually like maybe back stitch the tree shape and you went around the outside of the tree and then you could fill it in too or not, whatever you want to do there. But then that top hole of the tree is really going to be more defined and look a lot better. I hope that makes sense. Just this particular stitching, I don't worry about the top of the tree. We're going to cover it up with a star die cut anyway. And I also went with a completely different color combination than I have been doing really this holiday season, and that's blue, white, and silver. Another big favorite of mine, and this kit is perfect for that. I know probably a lot of you are done with your holiday projects or card crafting, your cards and things like that, and you're looking for other types of ideas. This kit is actually great for winter-ish theme with the penguins and the snowmen and the fun sentiments in the stamp set, the fun designs and patterns of the pattern paper in the kit and all of the other goodies. So it definitely can work for winter. It can work for holiday. If you've got some winter birthdays and other things like that, I think that would be fun. Obviously, with a tree that I'm using here, I went with a little bit more of that holiday feel, but this is going to be a holiday thank you card. I kept it to one card here simply because I've shared other ideas with this same die, but I really think it's a maybe looked over die that you don't realize how much fun it can be. I have been all about the stitching projects this holiday season for whatever reason. I've always kind of been a hand stitcher. Probably the first craft I ever started with was cross stitch. My mom taught me how when I was little, and I didn't really pick it up again until I was older and really have enjoyed cross stitch projects. And from there it just kind of spiraled, and then I got into stamping and paper crafting and all of that, and I quilt. But I still love those hand-stitched projects, whether it's on paper, whether it's on felt, whether it's on fabric. I love it all. So it's just a great way to kind of combine those two loves. So we're going to finish off the tree. Oh, I wanted to mention too, to make this, dress it up a little bit, because my card does have quite a bit of sparkle with some glitter cardstock and some gemstones, but the thread that or crochet thread that I'm using for the tree is white with silver metallic sparkle in it. So that's got a little bit of sparkle as well. So when we get to the top of the tree, I'm just going to kind of thread that through some of the stitches on the back to secure it. And then comes the fun pom-pom part. These pom-poms are so cute. So I think depending on what color of tree you're creating, I originally opened both packages because I thought I might try to incorporate the blue ones, but as I looked at my card, I just felt like it wasn't the direction I wanted to go. So I'm going to start at the back of my card. I've threaded a needle with the bobbin thread that comes in the kit, And I've come up from the back, and I'm going to start kind of at the top of the tree, and I definitely want to go kind of wonky here just to look more like a garland wrapped around the tree. And I'm going to start threading on pom-poms and then going back down through those same stitching tree holes. And we're going to zigzag our way back and forth through the tree, adding pom-poms. Super easy. As I was mentioning, depending on what colors of paper you use or what color of cardstock, what color of tree, you could use all these different colors of pom-poms and really make it a little bit more bright and fun. I kind of went more towards the elegant, I guess, side of this with my color choices, the dark navy blues and the whites and the silver, and that's why ultimately I opted to just keep the pom-poms to the white ones and not incorporate any of those blue ones as I originally planned. Again, not going straight across with adding the pom-poms. I want them to be more at a diagonal. You can see how easy it is. You just thread these little pom-poms on. I do think the smaller the needle, the better it works. You do get a package of needles in this card kit, so that really does help. And I'm just gonna, you can kind of maneuver and manipulate those pom-poms exactly where you want them to go. And as we get to the wider part of the tree, I add more pom-poms. So the first strand had 1, the second strand had 2, the next 2 strands I put 3 on, and then this last one at the widest base part of the tree, we're gonna go ahead and add 4 pom-poms. Just kind of spread them out evenly. You can even fix that more after you have kind of threaded your thread through the back of the card. I am just going to then knot this a couple times to secure this on the back of my piece before I snip off that end. And there is my cute little pom-pom adorned stitching tree. So now it's time to do all of the finishing details, add our stamping, add the remaining embellishments. We're going to start by adding the frame, both frames actually, and the middle panel to a top fold card base. Now, because there's some stitching and things on the back of the middle panel, I think that it looks best if it's adhered with foam adhesive. So I adhered the frame to my card base, the silver little die cut frame, which was also die cut from using that frame die. So let's go ahead and attach those. I'm going to use Spohr tape for the frame. You could use whatever kind of adhesive tape runner that you'd like. The little bit thin frame I think works best if you're not doing a total inlay, which this isn't going to be a complete inlay because, as I mentioned, we're going to pop up that center panel. I usually put adhesive all over the card base if it's an inlay, and then I can just pop the frame in. In this case, I'm going to just run a thin line of glue as soon as I get that outer frame put down where it goes. I think the liquid glue works really well in this instance. So we're just popping that frame down. We're going to score our card really well. And then I have a fine tip applicator on my Ranger multi-matte medium, which helps in running a nice thin line of glue. And then we're just going to fit the silver frame right into that space. So I kind of gently start at one area and just manipulate the frame until it's in there where it goes. I love this little frame. Once we have that, we're going to put foam adhesive on the back of the center panel. And I like the foam adhesive squares. They add dimension, but they're not going to add a ton of bulk. One of the reasons I didn't do a complete inlay is I'm not a huge fan of having my foam adhesive go all the way to the edge of my cards. I used to do that a lot, and that before I realized that the card doesn't fit in an envelope very well when I do that. So if at all possible, I tend to try to keep my foam adhesive elements to either one side or the center of my card, because I feel like it fits inside an envelope so much better that way. We'll peel off all the backing paper, pop this in place. Now the top of our tree, I am using the Simon Says Stamp Large Holiday Shapes die. This comes with 4 hearts and 4 stars, and these are on the larger size. There's also a regular Holiday Shapes, which are smaller, but this is the larger ones, and it's the second smallest star die from this set. I am die cutting that from that same silver cardstock that we used for the frame, and we're going to pop that on top of the tree with a glue dot. So just centering our panel here. Perfect. And then the tree trunk kinda is the thanks sentiment from the stamp set, and I'm going to stamp that and emboss it in white, and then we'll stamp an additional greeting from the stamp set on the inside of the card and emboss that with silver embossing powder. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this card featuring the January 2018 card kit. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring Simon Says stamps and dies that you might be interested in. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.